Hello, everyone, and welcome back. It is Sunday, March 20th, and this is episode 55 of Odds Are, your S&P 500 weekly market forecast. All right, let's take a look at last week. Well, last week was up, and away. And if you remember from last week's episode, I said there were two scenarios. One was we would breach to 4109 to the downside, that lower breach point, and then we would come back up and close within the expected settlement range. But I said if we breached that 4306 and went above that red midline, right, and it acted as support, in other words, we did not come back crashing down below, we stayed above it, then we would be in that upper channel and we would not close within the expected settlement range. So that's exactly what happened. We did not close within the expected settlement range, but that's because we went above the 4306, got above that red midline, and we just kept going up. In fact, we're actually up towards the upper edge of that blue shaded area, the Bollinger Band range. So now we may actually be looking at some resistance going into next week, but we'll get to that, in just a few minutes. Other than that, we did obviously have a breach of the breach points. We breached 4306, and the market did move as predicted, where if we had that breach of 4306 and went above that red midline, we stayed up there. All right, let's take a look at the moving averages. Ooh, this is a fun one. So, 2 episodes ago, I said that when the long-term moving averages shifted to neutral, then we were going to get some bouncing around, some mixed action here in the short term and medium term. And this is exactly what happened. So we did flip that long-term moving average now to neutral. The medium term is still bearish, but the short term is bullish because of last week. So what does that actually mean? Well, when we get into the relative view here in just a few slides, we're going to see how this big bounce up is actually not unexpected. So short-term moving average swinging into bullish is not surprising because, when we go down, the market's not just going to keep going down in a perpetual free fall. It doesn't go that way. You usually have people trying to come in and use it as, find buying opportunities. And so it's going to kind of bounce up. It's going to try to test to see if it's really the time to buy, if this is really the turning point, or if we're still trending downward. So this is a perfect example of what I was talking about. In this case, we're going to take it 1 week at a time. All right, let's see what we're expecting for next week and look at the critical price points. So for next week, we're expecting a settlement range of 43.43 to 45.44. So expecting to close somewhere in there with a 72% chance of that happening. And then we have the breach points, which are finally back outside of the settlement range. For a while they were kind of staggered all over the place, but those red lines there, those are the breach points, and there's an 81.38% chance that we will breach one of those 2 points. Then you have the parabolic SAR, which is all the way up there at 46.47. It is getting closer, not quite, something that I think is going to happen in the next week, but we are getting closer. And if you recall, that 46.77 is the price at which, if we go above it, then we have truly shifted back into a bullish sentiment. All right, let's take a look at the relative view for next week. So a couple of added on layers here. Take a look at those big, those U's, right, with the arrow there. So the first one, more to the left, is the one that we called as that dead cat bounce. So you remember a couple episodes ago I was talking about dead cat bounce. Market went down, bounced back up, but it really wasn't. It was like a fake out, and then it kept going down. Now take a look at the magnitude of this move. Very, very similar. So a very similar, bounce back up. But is this another dead cat bounce? Well, a couple things are different about it. Take a look now. The first one, we were just at the midline, and we were encountering resistance at the midline. And so that was the other thing that I saw as evidence of that dead cat bounce. Whereas this time, we've gone way past the midline, and now we're at the upper edge of the Bollinger Band range. And that itself could also act as some resistance. Not quite as strong as the midline, in my opinion, but it definitely is another source of resistance for this market. So we could bounce back down, but then we're coming down to the midline, which could act as support. So that that yellow shaded box there at the top there, that for me is the critical point. I think that if we go up there, so if we breach above 45.75 and we close outside of the settlement limit again, so if we close up above 45.75 technically, then we're going to be in that range where we are now higher than that dead cat bounce a couple of weeks ago. So we're finally getting above it. We're going beyond what the dead cat bounce was able to do, and that I think is going to be a very, very bullish indicator if we close up there. But I don't think it's going to happen all within 1 week. This may take 2 to 3 weeks to play out, but that's an area I'm watching on the charts. All right, so let's take a look now at. Didn't see that one coming. Well, last week, I spelled it out. I gave out the exact 2 scenarios, and, it was one or the other. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't have a crystal ball. I'm not going to tell you exactly which way it's going to break. But when I see 2 scenarios playing out, I try my best to describe those and say, okay, if it goes this way, this is what to expect. If it goes that way, that's what to expect. And I mean, honestly, like I said, without that crystal ball, that's the best I can do for you guys. But hopefully that helped somebody out there. So hopefully you guys found that informative. I don't really do this much, but hey guys, if you guys are watching this, give us a like the video, subscribe to the channel. It's free. I'm not selling or pitching you guys anything, but it definitely does help us get seen by more people, and it just shows me that people are out there listening and enjoy the content. But so last week, like I said, we called it. It was right on, and we'll see what we're expecting for this week. My call is that we're going to be bouncing down off of that upper edge of the Bollinger Band range. So I think we're going to be pulling back a little bit. I don't think we're going to make a straight shot all the way up there to the sky, to that yellow shaded area that I had on the charts. But we'll see. All right, and now let's wrap up with the quote of the week. This one is by Mr. Ralph Sager. Don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but he's from DIGI Capital Management. And Ralph says, an investor without investment objectives is like a traveler without a destination. This is, meant for investors, but I think it's equally applicable to traders and anybody, any market participant in general. Because if you don't have objectives, then how do you know if you're succeeding or if you're failing? If you don't have objectives, then what are you really doing this for? Are you just going into the market and throwing money? Are you truly just gambling? If so, then good luck, because the odds are stacked against you. But if you have an objective, or if you're working on an objective, then that is where you start really understanding and clarifying for yourself. More importantly than anybody else, it's clarifying for yourself what your plan is, what your strategy is, what you're hoping to get out of this. Are you trying to, make 15% a year, 15% a week? Are you trying to, trade options to get big breakout moves? Are you trying to capture premium from certain ranges? Are you trying to just follow the trend and, kind of ride the waves, if you will? You really need to know and understand what you're doing. And if you don't have that objective, then you are truly that traveler without a destination. And another way of saying that is you're lost. So don't be lost. Find yourself, find your strategy, and if you figure that out, then you're one step closer to being successful. So on that note, I will leave you guys. Enjoy your week. We'll be back here again next Sunday, and we'll see how this week plays out. Take care.